February 3rd. We're in the first floor conference room. With that, I'll go around the room for people to introduce themselves.
Andrew Kirkpatrick, District 5.
Joe Eichstead, interim city engineer.
Nick Dooms, design engineer.
Scott Kellogg, District 3.
Karen Madden, Daily Tribune.
Thank you. Item 1 is called a meeting to order. Item 2, review and possibly approve the draft policy governing the riverbank maintenance. Joel, you want to, or
Sure.
you want to start out, whichever one?
Real quick intro where, that Sue looked at it again, Jim Borski looked at it again, from my understanding, and any last changes were included in the draft that's in the packet. And reading through it, there was a couple things that I was a little unclear of. One thing, right in the first paragraph with purpose, there's a reference to the railroad trust near the craft mill. And I didn't know if that was supposed to be included in there or if that was just could be deleted out of there. But that was the only comments that I had seen or heard about. I read that.
Is that in there because that's part of the proposed extension of the trail system then?
Well, it talks about the use of bank from the expressway bridge up to the city limits near Strawberry Lane, and then the railroad trestle near the craft mill.
I think Jim put that in, basically, is the,
Okay.
should we just say
Is
it
it-
to the city
As
limits?
you read it, it says Strawberry Lane Railroad Trust. If you just kept
Yeah.
reading it, that the wording's just not.
We need to comma some.
So we just say to the city limits?
That's what I was thinking, city limits near Strawberry Lane.
Yeah.
Just delete the,
That's what I
And
think.
ended after Lane.
I think Jim put that in. I shared this with the Council for Beautification, and they thought it was fine. They all embraced the idea. There was some discussion that there has been people concerned about the height of the vegetation along the river, and so people have been going on the city property, cutting the vegetation out. So I think they put this note on the bottom where it says, is a crime for a person to damage, cut, trim, remove plants, trees, or brush located on the city property without the consent of the city. You got liability issues and you got others. And I was thinking too, they also at that council meeting of beautification, they talked about people are dumping grass clippings in the river. So I talked to Sue, and because she put that note down, I thought this might be a possible addition to the add on to that note, because it sends the idea that the river is an asset. I mean, our preamble talks about the importance of the river and how it's scenic and so forth. And it's kind of natural, it's common sense that you can't dump grass clippings in there. And it's kind of common sense that you can't go on city property to cut. But I'm thinking that if they put that in, should we add this statement as well? Or maybe not. It's just the idea that we're looking at this as a major asset of the city. So it's up to you guys. I thought I'd bring that forth because that did come up at the Council for Beautification. So.
I would think the dumping of materials and yard waste, I think we'd probably be better served covering that on a different policy, where you could go into greater depth and detail. I mean, what we have here is a really good one, I think, for the maintenance and maintaining of the riverbanks themselves. But I think when you're talking about the dumping of waste and yard materials and things like that, I think it's probably better to have a separate policy for that one, because then you can get into the minutia of it, naming of the river, naming of the tributaries, anything that would count along those lines.
And people have reported people doing it as regard to ordinances and so forth, and so those individuals have been contacted. So it might be a mood issue.
Right,
You know what I
maybe there are ordinances that cover that already.
Yeah, we
I
talked
assume there are, so.
Yeah, there are, the stormwater ordinances
State.
cover, yeah, so, for a policy, if it's for staff, I don't know if the policy that's for staff is, if that would, it wouldn't do much good for the general public, I guess.
Yeah.
But, certainly the ordinance is there, and, when those things are found, or the ordinance control officer sees things, or whomever, they get reported.
Well, I would suggest leaving that out. I mean, I'm bringing this forth because it came forth at the council meeting.
Sure.
But we have the ordinances, people can report people who are abusing, and leave it at that.
And hopefully, I guess if people do it and realize that it's illegal to do that, just by telling them that would
That's what's
take
happening.
care of it.
Yeah. Okay.
I was happy to see the inclusion of allowed to grow naturally, and then I was happy to see the inclusion of, with the exception of invasive species and trees that are hazardous due to rot decay or storm damage. So I think that helps to cover, again, the beautification and the maintenance of it as well, but still staying within the scope of what we want to do, keeping it natural, but it's a good way to walk the line on that one.
And our previous one talked about, I talked to Jim and talked about having it cut twice. But in talking to him, I mean, there's logic to saying once.
Mhm.
And if we have a weather that would necessitate cutting it twice, it could be cut twice. But then you could have a dry season, so to put in there that it should be cut twice. And it's a costly undertaking, so to say it should be cut twice, then he's obligated to do that. So I think this wordage works out well, and he can schedule it based on his manpower and budgets and everything else like that. So I kind of thought that this would be a better wordage on the bottom there, last paragraph.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. Are you all in agreement to approve the policy, I guess?
I would
Send
move
it on?
to accept this as our policy for the maintenance of the riverbank.
I'll second it. Any discussion or questions by anybody? Hearing none, committee will vote. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Number 3, review and approve County Materials Corporation unit price extension for concrete materials through December 31st, 2015. Joe?
County Materials, it's the company that we buy all of our concrete pipe, storm manholes, sanitary manholes, all those sorts of structures from. They have offered a discount that's continued throughout the years, and they have no price increase for 2015. There was increases, some slight increases in 2014, but the same things that were accepted, same terms as accepted in 2014 are proposed for 2015. So staff would recommend approving the discounts, I guess. The unit price extension.
Well, I'd move for the extension of, to approve the price extension for concrete materials through December 31, 2015 with County Materials Corporation.
Second.
Any discussion by anybody? Any questions? Hearing none, committee will vote. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Number 4, review and approve the DOT project 6999-07-18, negotiated 3-party design contract for the 8th Street South and East Grand intersection modification project. Joe, or?
Yeah, the contract's included in here for your reference. Primarily, a lot of the negotiations have taken place between Strand, the consulting engineer, and Cedar Corp, which is the DOT management consultant. And so they've gone through and looked at a lot of things. We've also reviewed the contract. Everything, is fairly standard for this sort of contract. The negotiated design amount is $65,489.30. The original state municipal agreement stated a 90-10 split between state and local funding. The city would be picking up 10% of the cost. So the negotiated amount of $65,000 is above that original state municipal agreement. That original estimated design cost was $54,590. So the negotiated amount is about $10,000 higher than what was originally estimated. I talked with Cedar Corp about this, the DOT's management consultant, and they had originally had the contract, or were looking at a contract for a lump sum fee. However, with the way the negotiations went, they changed it to an actual fee plus this fixed fee that they add on to there. So if it comes in less, then the city would pay less, the DOT would also pay less, based upon the 90-10 split.
Yeah.
So, with everything that we reviewed, the DOT's in agreement with it, and everything we've looked at internally seems to be okay.
Where do we get the 90-10 split from? Is that because it was once a highway?
No, that's the program. It's the Highway Safety Improvement Program. It's the funding that's available. That's what they have. That's what the program stipulates for that program.
Okay.
So we made an initial application to the Highway Safety Improvement Program. They granted the funding, with the 90-10 split.
Okay. Do we have any designs already worked out for the project, or is that incoming yet?
Certainly incoming yet. This contract here will kind of kick off the design contract where they'll do the full design for it. The preliminary thought is to upgrade the signals. I mean, the whole intersection would get rebuilt. But the main issues are the left turners, providing a positive offset. Vehicles that are trying to make left turns can see the oncoming traffic so that they can proceed safely. The way it sits now with a zero offset is you're basically looking at the other left turner in front of you, and you can't see anybody coming through the intersection.
Time frame on this, Joe?
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I think the contract has to be, they have to provide all the services by 2017. This is supposed to coincide with the East Grand Avenue project. It's the same consultant, Strand Associates, it's doing both
That makes
projects.
sense, yeah.
One thing that we need to follow up on is how that it's all going to get coordinated between the two. Apparently, this program has a sunset date because it's safety money that we wouldn't postpone doing a safety project. That if East Grand gets postponed for some reason, that this one may have to come first or something. But that's still being worked out, I guess, and how that might all take place and get coordinated. So
We'll find out as time goes on.
So this is breaking ground on what, 2018, 2019?
I think 18.
Well, that'll be a big project if it's all done at one time like that. It'd be a big project anyway.
Where are we gonna put the parade?
Another thing we gotta work out.
You figure that out later. I'll make a motion to approve the negotiated three-party design contract as presented.
I would second it.
Motion and second to approve the three-party design contract for Main Street South End and East Grand Avenue intersection. Any questions or comments by anybody? Hearing none, committee will vote. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Item 5, review and approve the annual professional services agreement with MSA Professional Services for performing stormwater-related services.
So the past several years, we've had a contract with MSA for stormwater-related services on an as-needed basis. Basically, have them on retainer for things that may come up. We need assistance for different things related to stormwater. The scope of work authorized that's listed in here is strictly based on an on-call basis. I think the last 2 years we usually have $5,000 set aside for on-call services. And certainly in 2014, we didn't use maybe less than $1,000, I think we had used. So we have them list the scope of work that we might be looking at. That's what they use to come up with the estimated not to exceed fee that's listed of $10,000. So that's not saying we're gonna spend all that money, but they're there if we need them. A couple things that we might have them look at, that are listed there. One being the Urban Endpoint Source Grant. You might actually have them write the application for that grant, and they would be, this services agreement would it'd be under contract where we could do that. We could have them do that work for us. Some other things, like if the developer comes into town, or if we have issues modeling some of the stormwater stuff for permit requirements on our projects and need their assistance with it. Those are things that they would be able to assist us with. So anybody has any questions on that?
So for the past years, how long?
I think they did our original stormwater management plan the plan was dated 09, but I think they were doing work for us in 08 as well, related to that.
That's good. So
Preparation for it, so,
you like their work?
yeah.
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 I'd make a motion to accept the professional service agreement with MSA Professional Services.
I'll second that. Any questions by anybody? Comments, hearing none, committee will vote. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. That will go to item 6, and that's to review the proposed 2015 Public Works project schedule. Or Nick, you.
I don't know if we have much to update.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. Let's see. The Safe Routes to School project, just a quick update there. We did give approval to send a notice of award to SD Becker, the contractor. We got the signed contracts back, just got it back yesterday, so we still in the process of executing that contract on our end. And then we should move forward with contract approval with the DOT. And then we can get our crews out there to remove the trees and hopefully start work for spring.
The trees are all marked, aren't they?
Yep, they're all
All
marked.
of them all the way.
Yeah, we'll have to go through and review it again, just to make sure that they're all there. All the flags are there. Yeah, that's really, I guess.
And will the residents be notified when the cutting's gonna start? I mean,
Yeah,
They
definitely.
know that it's gonna take
Yeah.
place, I guess, but when it's gonna start.
When the purchase of the trees occurred, there were several residences that they were very concerned about being notified. I mean, they don't want to come home and work someday and find out that the trees are
right.
gone. Even though the city's paid for them, it's a courtesy and certainly coordinate and make sure it happens with our crews and stuff, so.
All right, anything else? Any questions, anybody?
When, with the removal of the trees, those are the ones that'll just, are in the proximity of where the sidewalks will be. But there are some that are not on the footprint of the sidewalk, those probably still will have to be removed to stop any sidewalk heaving and stuff like that, correct?
Yeah, within a certain proximity, enough was taken out so that we could make sure that the sidewalk could get installed, without killing the tree. If we were gonna kill the tree, then.
And the stumps will be removed too, even though
Yeah.
they might not be.
Yeah. Yeah, the city crews will be doing that, once the ground thaws out and stuff, prior to the contractor coming in. Move the stumps and topsoil.
Okay, anything else? Item 7, that's to review our referral list.
We've had the first one, 13, I think, Andy, you mentioned that. I think in my short tenure on the Common Council, there were like 2 incidences where you had talking about light poles and so forth. Should we come up with a policy? I think it seems to me that in residential areas, there was issue with a wooden pole or a fiberglass pole. I think our standard has been wooden poles. And any major thoroughfare, like the Expressway or 8th Street or wherever, Grand Avenue, it would be probably aluminum, fiberglass, decorative or something. So should we create that so then we don't have to deal with these issues? I mean, we have a policy and we can talk to people based on the policy rather than an incident at a time,
Yeah.
And the last one we had, they decided as a subdivision to put in fiberglass, but they paid for the additional cost. And so if we could create that, then we put it to bed as
Yeah.
we had poles and things like that.
And a couple of weeks ago, I did follow up on where the street lighting policy is currently at. And because I know Todd Weiler had come to a meeting in 2014, I believe, at some point, and Modern Light, and he had a bunch of, he kind of had the initial stages of it. And so I talked with him to see what to see if he had anything else to add.
Yeah.
And so part of that discussion was certain areas designated or certain routes to have, continue to have whatever color, aluminum or fiberglass or decorative and that sort of thing. So we are, I guess, still working on it. We picked it back up and trying to move it forward to get something to bring, policy finalized to bring back.
Yeah, just put it to bed type of thing.
And I guess as I recall, when I brought that one forward was, I guess, myself and the police department and maybe Mayor's office, we have kind of fundamentally different views of what street lighting does, and should be. And I think, if I remember right, this was about the same time that Alderman Worrell asked for a street light down on near his property, and another one was asked for over on the west side of town, mid-block, if I remember correctly. And in those cases, it was requested outside of the normal distance that's allowed for a specific subdivision or area. And it was requested more on the idea of security.
Hmm.
You know, so to me,
For safety.
safety,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, safety, security, whichever one you want to
Yeah.
use. I think they're kind of both slightly interchangeable as far as it goes, but I guess from my perspective, I view street lighting in a lot of ways as being a safety and a security issue. And I think, you know, there's the other side of the coin, the way that it's commonly held probably for a long time now and probably still is majority commonly held that those lights are not there for the safety of property or the safety of residents. You know, I guess jump in wherever you feel
Of
necessary.
businesses, yeah.
Yeah, you know, but I think there definitely is validity to that question of, you know, it's a city light, it's there to illuminate the street at night. And certain, you know, if you drive down one street that's not illuminated for whatever reason, and you drive down another street that is illuminated, there is certainly a sense, a perception of added value in security and safety on the illuminated street rather than the non-illuminated street. So I guess that's the nature of how I brought it up was, you know, do we need to review our policy of distances, and do we need to review our policy of how we regard lighting in the city? Is it something that's there as an added value of safety, security for the residents, for the businesses, whatever, you know, what have you, or is it there as, you know, jump in with the traditional thought of, you know, the rationale or argument of however it is, you know, currently, you know, the status quo.
Yeah, my thought was that it's not for, that's why I talked about safety and security. The security, it's not there for businesses. Businesses have to provide their own lighting on their property and so forth for that. And to me, it's more for the safety of the intersections and walking on the streets and so forth in the residential area. And I think you're right, we have to designate purpose and maybe getting the police department involved. And I'm glad we talked to the water and light, get everybody engaged in that discussion because it's an important discussion, because it is a costly deal, those poles and the annual
Infrastructure
cost.
to put it together. You know.
And someone may look at it as less than that, but I think it's more important and the safety of the community.
So I guess you know, if you are actively working on it yet, I would kind of also push you in that direction to come up with some resolution one way or the other there, some recommendation.
Sure. Is it something worth kind of going back and compiling, you know, of course, we've got some of the new stuff that was put together by Todd Weiler, but going back to, you know, what are current policies and ordinances.
Yeah, the history.
And
Right, I think we
bring it
need
to
to
the
know what,
committee to discuss. You know,
right, we need to know what the current standard is for installation of a light, what those distances are, what those, you know, is it, I think it's on each corner and then one mid-block, but only after a certain distance is met. Well, the one that's out in front of, like across the street from my house, it's a third of the way down the block as you enter the, you know, it's a one-way street, but it's a third of the way down the block, and then you got 2/3 of the block remaining where it's dark, unlit, much more difficult to see than it is on that first third where you got those two lights only. You know, so it's a mid-block light, but it's nowhere near middle of the block. So there's moments like that that are, I think, confusing as far as the policy goes right now.
Mhm.
So, you know, clarity on that, clarity on what it, you know, should be, how, and then some history on how it's been viewed in the past, and I don't know if there's any positions that other municipalities have taken regarding it, but I think that would probably be beneficial as well.
And
And if the
having,
police department has any information on,
Sure.
you know, obviously better lit streets, less crime, less opportunity for crime, but, you know, is it such a severe nature that this would have a noticeable impact if we were to light more streets?
and water and lights transitioning into mercury,
Away from
lights,
the mercury to
yeah.
LED, yeah.
LED. So, I mean, they would have other data that would be necessary
Yep.
for LED lights. So,
Well, I think you have some more input. I think if we could, I guess, proceed in sometime in near future.
Yeah.
Let us know when we can put it on the agenda and,
The amount of stuff, I don't think it's gonna be next month.
no,
No,
right.
it's,
No,
there's
that-
definitely a lot more there than what,
Quite a
than
while.
what meets the eye as far as it
I
goes.
think, I think the discussion and comments that were made were good, and staff took them down, so I think we'll proceed. Yeah.
Well, I know with, as far as using the city lights or additional city lights in the aid of crime prevention, I know Chief Hoyer was here last year. We had some more lights installed down in the Second Street, First Street area.
Hmm.
I think you will find that not everybody wants a street light in their residential
Certainly.
area.
Certainly.
I know, I've seen that in the past where people say, I don't want that light there, I can't fall asleep, I gotta shut my shades every night or stuff like this, so, I think you'll see that it won't be uniform, as far as the desire to have a street light in front of your house.
Right.
So-
Conversely, I'm the guy who 24 hours a day has my shades pulled.
All right.
Thank you, because that, you're right, I think,
Certainly.
yeah.
at least we have a policy to work around,
Yeah.
and make exceptions if we have to here or there, but,
Or maybe less stringent upon the request, but,
right,
the nature of the request is such, and we are authorized to proceed in such a
Right.
way, rather than, well, that doesn't meet the criteria
Right.
because of, this or this.
there might be extenuating circumstances.
Right.
Anything else on that one? Let's go down the list. 17 of 2014 can be taken off. That was about clearing the brush along the riverbanks.
Mhm.
I feel like we did something with number 20 in the past here. Am I wrong?
Not yet, I don't think.
No?
This may disappear by default without having
Okay.
their projects on hold
Okay.
and what they're doing, so a year back, I guess.
Number 1 on the goose population control is there.
Jim thinks, next Public Works meeting, he'll
Okay.
have something together.
Okay. Item 2, that was the County Materials Corporation extending the price extension for concrete materials. That one can be taken off. Number 3, under 2015, that was to approve the DOT project, 8th Street South and East Grand Avenue intersection modification. And item 4, and that was to approve the annual professional services agreement with MSA Professional Services for performing stormwater-related services. And I think that's it, and you think those next couple, Joe, we can have next month maybe, or?
Yeah, yep, that's the plan. Take a look at them and see. Follow up with some of them.
If we can, we will. Right. All right, anything else by anybody? All
Be
right,
interesting if we could talk about number 6, if we're thinking about spring. And if you need information,
Yeah.
that's a signage for a bicycle
Yeah.
lane. Just so you have some plan, and if you need that this spring.
Yeah, there's it's part of the Complete Streets initiative, there was some work done in 14 on it, taking out the on-street bike lanes and pavement markings and stuff that were put out there. And this part is kind of looking at the actual, I think like Stevens Point has it, it's maybe something similar to that, but they'll put, like on their circle routes through Stevens Point, they've got on the street name signs, they've got like a bike symbol, so you know that this is, you're still on a route, some sort of indicator that you're still on the route. So,
Has there ever been, kind of along with that, has there ever been any consideration given to making certain roads non-bicycle on the road? Because I know every now and then, and then at least once a year, you'll get that large group of bicycles that comes through with that state cross-country thing. But you'll get somebody who decides it's a good idea to ride their bicycle down 8th Street,
Sure.
and they can't keep up with the traffic running 40 miles an hour, and they're gonna cause themselves to get injured, and they're gonna cause somebody to wreck a car and slam into a building, and
It's a good
and
question.
same thing down the expressway. I've seen it on the expressway and other roads that, aren't designed or aren't designed to carry that, or should be considered non-pathways because of
Right.
speed and volume.
That'd be something to look into. I'm not aware of, what can and can't be done in those situations.
Because that could help to kind of help to funnel some of that towards these bicycle paths that we are
Yeah.
creating and trying to push on, if we're doing that complete streets thing, then that group that comes through each year should know that this is our path through the town, and please don't ride down the middle of 8th Street, or what, I don't know if they're the main culprit for that, but I see it from time to time, and it's one of those things I go, oh God, here we go. You just wait to hear a thump.
Oh, wait.
No.
Anything else by anybody on referrals? Okay, before we adjourn, I'd like to thank River City's Community Access for televising and taping our meeting tonight, and the Daily Tribune for attending. With that, maybe item 8, that's adjourn. I'll move we adjourn.
So moved.
A motion, a second adjourn, all in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes, aye. Meeting of Public Works is adjourned.